But that's the best experience, obviously. Anything less than that would be kind of like, well, yeah. Some of us, sometimes we are we're reversible, but let's hope not. But if we hear from Prabhupada enough, I think we'll become irreversible. That's the point, I think. Enough hearing. Okay, another characteristic of a founder Acharya. Okay, a little explanation of that. Mataji's, anyone? Yes. What does it mean? They supersede all others?
If at some point in time there needs to be some clarification about, if there are two perspectives on a same situation, then his teachings will decide which path to take. He's like how you said, the judge. To determine what needs to be followed.
Supersedes all other, and compulsory for his followers. That's obvious. That's self-explanatory. Because you can't be a follower unless you follow. And compulsory. That's important to understand. I think sometimes we say I'm following Prabhupada, but when it comes to explaining some of his teachings, we can't do that. So reading his books are very important. When we speak about followers, that means everyone in this ISKCON movement, yes? Nityananda Pran?
Maharaj, to me it also means that in the future there are many others who might write books or teachings, but they must all be within or in line with Prabhupada's teachings.
Yeah, that's called chastity to the founder Acharya, and it's also the principle of what we say clarified understanding, because we may write, and that's the history of our sampradaya, and all sampradayas, that certain senior devotees write books on the words of the founder Acharya. But the fundamental principles must remain the same, although they may be adjusted according to time, place, and circumstance. What is that adjustment? Using certain language. Using the language to reach people, because people may understand the same teachings when it's presented in a different type of, what we say, venue, or what we say, jargon. So therefore using the right, keeping the principles without changing the principles, but we may also adjust according to time, place, and circumstance. But who can do that? That's the question. That will come up in the seminar later, but if you want to hit on it now, who can actually do that? When Shruti Kirti Prabhu said to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, this was in 1972 in Tokyo, he said, Prabhupada, we see that, prior to coming to the West, generally women were not allowed to, be active in temple life. They usually stayed living in their homes and they practiced devotional service there. They could visit the temple, but you have allowed women to come into the temple. And so Prabhupada said, yes, I had to make adjustment according to time, place, and circumstance. This is the Western culture, and this is the only way it could actually work. So then Shruti Kirti went on to say, but how do we know when we can adjust something? What is a principle and what is something that is adjustable? So that was the question. And Prabhupada's answer was, does anybody want to take a shot at Prabhupada's answer? It's a tough one. Yes. Now, how do you know what you can adjust and what you can adjust? That's basically the simple thing. Yes.
To be able to speak directly to Krishna.
No. How do you know? This is the question. How do you know when you can adjust the principle, when something is adjustable and something is not adjustable? How do you know the difference? Yes. I got it. It requires intelligence. That's the answer. It requires intelligence. And that was the way Prabhupada answered it, and he never said anything else. So therefore, intelligence is something you have to develop. It's not something that somebody's going to hand it to you. They can give you the tools for the intelligence, but you have to develop the intelligence, yes.
I don't know if this is this an appropriate time for questions?
Sure.
On this point, I was wondering, when we're reading the books of senior devotees whose writings are based on the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's teachings are very variegated and very expansive. So when we say that the teachings of the founder Acharya supersede all others, but if the writings are based on the teachings of the founder Acharya, it can create like confusion. Is that?
If they're based on the teachings of the founder Acharya, 2 + 2 is 4, 3 and 1 is 4 also. What's the conclusion? They have to come to the same siddhanta or same conclusion. If by reading both teachings and our understandings and you get a different conclusion, that is a deviation. Yeah, you can give an example.
Thinking kind of like in the Ritvik idea, Srila Prabhupada in his writings has stressed very much on the relationship of a disciple with a guru.
Yeah.
And the Ritvik say that is with Srila Prabhupada direct. Whereas if someone in the future shall say it is with the guru. So how are we to understand? Because they can emphasize Srila Prabhupada's teachings, which say spiritual master disciple, but it doesn't exactly indicate directly with Srila Prabhupada, but the principle of Guru Tattva, etc. So how do we understand that type of situation?
The situation is, what's the opposing points? Somehow I missed it. The direct to Srila Prabhupada and direct to Guru Tattva?
Yeah, we hear in Srila Prabhupada's books, what's going on?
Right. Does anyone understand the question? I can somehow or other discern your particular point that you're making. Somehow I'm missing it.
A principle in Prabhupada's books, that is, Prabhupada emphasizes again and again, is the relationship between guru and disciple.
Yeah.
So this principle, the Ritviks claim that it means the relationship is with Srila Prabhupada only. That's what the Ritviks claim. That the guru-disciple relationship is with Srila Prabhupada as the guru. And other followers of Srila Prabhupada emphasize on guru-disciple relationship in terms of Diksha.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same principle, but emphasis is different.
Yeah.
That's right?
Hey, so there's no contradiction. I don't see any contradiction. You have a relationship with your Diksha Guru, direct, Guru disciple, but as Prabhupada as the founder of Acharya, there are those who have Diksha relationship, but Prabhupada is a Shiksha relationship for everybody. And as he said, what is that statement by Prabhupada? Everyone's my disciple, some know it and some don't. What does he mean by that? It's not a statement of pride. He's saying that actually he has come as the Jagat Guru in this age, and therefore everyone can take shelter of him. If they do, they take shelter of the absolute truth. That's, yeah, as we hear, that Prabhupada empowers we go back to that, we call those who are his followers to act on his behalf. So he's giving you power. If you, this is a whole Ritvik argument. I mean, we can go on for all day on this one. But 1974, Prabhupada wrote a letter to Krishna Prabhu and said, become a spiritual master. He said, the etiquette is, as long as one's guru is still living on the planet, one cannot take up the position of what we say initiation. But I want all my disciples to become spiritual masters. and therefore spread Lord Chaitanya's movement everywhere. And that he meant also initiations. Okay. So let's not go too far into this because this could be an all-day affair. Yeah, sure. Yeah. You can't legislate a disciple's devotion, but we see in the case of some of our spiritual masters, they temper their disciples' what we say offerings in such a way as not to make it such a grand display. Like I give you an example, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, on his Vyasa Puja, what does he do? He has a whole weekend program, and it's just seminars about Prabhupada. The whole weekend. And at the end, he has a little ceremony where devotees come up, offer eulogies, and offer some gifts. And that's a real small part of the whole program. So we need to do that. We need to emphasize Srila Prabhupada like that. And at the same time, when the disciples are emphasizing both their spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada, they're feeling the complete mercy of the Lord. We are getting a lot. One of these reasons for this seminar is that Prabhupada's fading into the background as time goes on. He's losing his position as what we say the basis of everything we do. And there's a lot of guru moods in our movement now, that my guru is everything. Here, this is part of the seminar. It's in the first lesson. I'll give you the example. It was Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja day. It was in Mayapur. So the idea, is fasting. So one senior devotee was walking around the Mayapur campus and he sees this one young brahmachari eating pizza in the morning. And he says, Prabhu, it's Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja day. We're all fasting this morning. The brahmachari says, Prabhu, he's your guru, he's not mine. Wow. It struck this senior disciple so much, he was speechless in the sense that he was mortified. He couldn't respond. He just walked away, disgusted. And later on, he wrote a whole paper based on that experience. That some people think, my guru is not Srila Prabhupada. He's just the one that started the whole thing. So this is not only wrong, but it's offensive. It's offensive. Not to understand our relationship with Prabhupada is the foundation for everything. Therefore, all spiritual masters are encouraged to be mediums for Srila Prabhupada and not blocks. In other words, the buck doesn't stop with them. They're just simply via media to Prabhupada's teachings, his life, his mood, his mission, everything. Here, we'll go into that a little bit more. It's actually the next series of slides, and I'll explain why it's so important to keep Prabhupada in the center. Okay, holds a unique post. We went through that. Is the Acharya or leader of all Vaishnavas when physically present? Okay, let's go. Okay, awards power of attorney to his follower through adherence to his teachings. These are some of the characteristics. Yes, Acharya Nishta.
Yeah, I just was having just two questions on this section. The first item, deliver of everyone. I'm not sure if this is into regards to the subject you don't want to get into right now, but
which one are we on?
The first topic, Uddhara Raka. There are different opinions, and some devotees in or outside of ISKCON, as far as the principle of the actual deliverer of the disciple. I've heard some different understandings that the Diksha Guru or the spiritual master, or actually it's Srila Prabhupada. So is there any way you could comment? This is indicating that Srila Prabhupada is the ultimate deliverer of the disciple who...
Ultimately, if you look at Prabhupada as a Diksha Guru, then you have an argument. But he's not just a Diksha Guru. He's the founder, the Acharya of the whole process of Krishna consciousness as we know it. It's his way that we practice devotional service. He gives the foundation. You go to other Vaishnava Sampradayas, they're also Vaishnavas, but their mood and their direction may be slightly different in the way they carry out the execution of their services and the way they approach the philosophy. So we can't do that. If we say, well, they're also Vaishnavas and we can follow that too. No. We have to be chaste to Srila Prabhupada because he's giving us the path back to Krishna. So, yes, for he's unique. Therefore, all Shiksha Gurus, all Diksha Gurus in ISKCON, and all, Padark Vartmanacharyas, the ones who bring us, there's three kinds of Gurus. Each one has to be, chaste and follow Srila Prabhupada. Also, ultimately, they don't have any power if they don't. They lose the connection. He's the connection. He's the foundation in all respects.
So is it worth trying to analyze critically when the language is used that the guru delivers his disciple? For one to try to scrutinize which guru or like that, like it's Prabhupada, no, it's my Diksha guru, no, this guru or that guru, or how would a disciple understand
Where's your
that?
Diksha guru getting his power from? From his spiritual master. When Srila Prabhupada was glorified for his teachings and his, success, he said, I'm simply carrying out the instructions of my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. My qualifications is only I haven't changed anything. I haven't added anything. I haven't taken anything away. He said, I've remained chaste to him, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's teachings. Therefore, I'm empowered. And that's where the empowerment is. The chastity, the more one adheres to the teachings of the spiritual master, the more one becomes associated with and empowered by that spiritual master. There's the unique position like that. So each guru in ISKCON is simply trying to emulate or be a representative of Srila Prabhupada. And we haven't gotten to that yet, but I'll jump a little ahead. That's the success of the Sri Sampradaya and the Madhva Sampradaya. They're strong today. They're very powerful in their areas of the world. Why? Because they glorify Ramanuja. They glorify and follow very carefully the teachings of Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya. All preachers in those movements read and study everything about Ramanujacharya, and they simply preach based on that. And that's why they're strong. And that'll be our strength too. As long as we remain chaste and an example for what Srila Prabhupada wanted for his disciples, for our disciples too. The same thing. In other words, the gurus are just via mediums. It's not a rikvik. The spiritual masters who are disciples of Prabhupada also have their disciples. They're their disciples, but ultimately they're being offered to Srila Prabhupada as a offering that because of you, these disciples have come. That's chastity. That's transparency.
Thank you, Maharaj. The other question, I wasn't sure based on your previous slide if you said Srila Prabhupada is considered our only founder Acharya. The language in one of books I read, Implementing Tradition Within ISKCON, it's I'm forgetting the author right now, but he indicated that there are other previous founder acharyas in our sampradaya. Would that be a correct understanding? Srila Shivaram Swami, he wrote that book, Implementing Tradition Within ISKCON, and he indicated that...
The book called Shiksha Diksha?
Yeah.
That one? Yeah. Yeah, also.
Like Madhvacharya Madhvacharya is also a founder acharya.
Well, if these people or those persons that they say has all these characteristics, then they can be called a founder acharya. But they also have to be foundational in bringing about a movement. what did Prabhupada do that was unique? That the Gaudiya Math was losing its, what we say, connection with Bhakti Siddhanta. They didn't follow Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's teaching when he said, establish a GBC. And for 20 years after the departure of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, gradually that society started to go down and down and down. Prabhupada came and recharged the whole system, but he had to start a whole new movement. He had to start a whole new movement to do it. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati told his disciples to go and start, Krishna consciousness in different places in the world. They went, they came back. He said it was too difficult. The Westerners they're too much in the modes of material energy. We can't preach to these people. They're nice people, but they're not able to take up Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada, where did Prabhupada go? He went to the Bowery, to the most lowest place, and we'll see how Krishna is orchestrating this whole thing of Prabhupada's coming and doing this work. It's not like all of a sudden it just somehow manifested by circumstances. It's Krishna's hands behind this whole thing. So, therefore Prabhupada actually regenerated the Sampradaya by starting the ISKCON movement. And he became the founder Acharya. Because the Gaudiya Math was pretty much finished. And they're still fighting in court over who's the next Acharya. Prabhupada said 40 years afterwards they have become asara. Asara means useless. Because when you deviate from the instructions of the spiritual master, you lose the potency, and therefore everything goes down. And that's what happened. If we do that too, the same movement will go down. And then there'll be another person that Krishna will come, will send to start it up again. Hopefully we don't have to go through that. But that's, as long as we stay chaste and faithful to Srila Prabhupada, this movement will continue to grow and ultimately engulf the world as Lord Chaitanya predicted. But if we don't follow Prabhupada, or somehow or other we push him aside, then gradually we'll turn into an institution of just, go to church on Sunday, eat a few chapatis and twirl a few incenses here and there, and then, feel good, smile at each other, go home, and then watch television. It'll be the same old thing, We call it churchianity. Go to church, feel good, and come home and do the same thing you've been doing. But that's not our movement. Our movement is to transform our consciousness to devotional consciousness and to preach to other people to do the same thing. That's what makes this movement, what we say, alive. It's a living movement. It becomes dead when we say mechanically follow just some basic principles just so we can feel good about, I got a name and I got a guru and I'm a nice person. But nothing's, it's not gonna. That's not Prabhupada's movement. And if that ever happens, we'll just drift into complacency, and then Krishna will send somebody else to start it up again, because that's Lord Chaitanya's desire to get to engulf the whole world. So we don't want to do that. We want to continue with what Prabhupada gave us. Yes.
I may be mistaken. Did Prabhupada say that our movement would become like a church?
He said it can be.
Did he say that as a prediction or
no,
as something
he didn't
that
say
he
it,
didn't want
he said
that
it,
to happen?
No, he didn't say it would be a prediction. He said if it's a possibility that if we lose the spirit of Krishna consciousness and just go for the external, the spirit is the spirit of surrender, austerity, and preaching. That's the spirit. We lose that, then we become just one of the many religions in the world. That's all. Okay, who are these three personalities? everyone knows. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, who? And, Founder Acharya is exemplary. Who predicted our Founder Acharya's advent? Okay, who's speaking here? Anyone want to read?
Prakash, worshipper of the holy name, will appear in this world and spread the chanting of my holy name everywhere. Lord Krishna, Brahma Vaivarta Purana.
So Krishna is actually speaking. Who is he? Maybe you don't know who he's speaking to. Let's see if it's mentioned here. Oh, okay. It's not mentioned. But he's actually speaking to Ganga Devi. And it's recorded in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana that after 5,000 years, the worshipper of the holy name will appear in this world and spread the chanting of my holy name everywhere. Wow. So there's the prophecy. Okay. Any comment? What's the next one? Wow. I think that's really what some of us are all about. We try to run away from India, but we got captured here. Right? Yeah, that's what Lord Chaitanya said. Even if they flee to the foreign places, my military field commander, More Senapati Bhakta, will go there and deliver them. So Prabhupada traveled around the world how many times? 14 times. He was chasing us down. He was after us. Couldn't escape. No corner of the world. Can't hide. Okay. This is Bhakti Vinod Thakur in 1885. Wow. These are the predictions. One by Krishna, one by Lord Chaitanya, one by the great Acharya Bhakti Vinod. All predicting in the future a great soul will appear and do the work that's being done right now. Who is that? Some people say it's Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. But actually, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati he instituted it by sending his preachers to different places of the world, but actually it was Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, that actually did the work. So this actually refers to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Although Bhakti Siddhanta was the one that inspired it to happen. Any questions or comments? Okay, yes?
It is actually a question. Do the disciples of Srila Prabhupada's God brothers say the same thing?
Some do and some don't. Some recognize him and some don't.
Or do they say that their guru is the same, is the predicted one?
Some do and some don't. Some acknowledge, just like Madhava Maharaj, he very much glorifies Srila Prabhupada. Also, Sridhar Maharaj also. But others either don't speak or really don't acknowledge Prabhupada's work in the world for whatever reason. Okay, next one. Someone read? Ladies? Any of the ladies? Okay. Lord Chaitanya is in action.
ignited a Bhakti renaissance in India.
So Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement, at least in India, in 16th century, which we're still doing today. And who knows the history of that one? Anyone? How Bhaktivinoda Thakur envisioned that? Do you remember, Mataji? Yes? Oh, behind? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
From the veranda of where he was living, he saw a huge temple where many people were worshipping Lord Chaitanya and singing the glories of the holy name.
He had a vision, and in the vision he saw people from all the races of the world dancing and chanting. And it was a huge temple, which is the one that's now being built. So that temple was predicted by Lord Nityananda, and it was envisioned by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is supposed to finish in the year 2016. So, okay. Here's another one. Who can read? So all these things are setting the stage for Srila Prabhupada's appearance. Here's something really interesting. This you might say this is a coincidence. Who wants to read this one? Yeah. All of a sudden, just at the same time Prabhupada appeared, all these things happened. It was actually the same year that Prabhupada came to America, 1965, that the United States relaxed their immigration laws. And it was because of that Prabhupada was able to enter into America. The Vatican made some statements considering that maybe truth is found also in other religious teachings. Very I guess that's still up for contention yet. And then, of course, there was the hippie movement, or what were people rejecting? One word. What were they rejecting? Yeah, authority. Authority. All authority. If you're an authority, you're out. And then there was this movement of just, if you're over 30, don't listen to them. They used to say that if someone's over 30, don't hear from them. And then, of course, they got over 30, and that became a problem then. Then they changed it to 40, I think. So it was a problem. Yeah, it was like, okay, what is that? Tune in, turn on, drop out. Right? Just use drugs and do whatever you want to do, and experience life according to how you feel at the very exact moment. So it was a rejection of everything. Parents, teachers, authorities, governments. And Prabhupada came along. And people were looking towards the east. Baba Ram Das and so many other gurus were coming, from India. Some of them were American gurus, some were Indian gurus coming. And India was seen as now something to look for mystic, for teachings, for spiritual movements. And Prabhupada came at that time. Krishna's arrangement. Okay, we're moving on now. So this one is, how did Srila Prabhupada manifest the symptoms of a founder Acharya? First one. Wow. What's the amazing thing about this? I mean, besides what he did, what is the amazing thing about it? Yes. Yeah, nice point. Yeah, he was 70 years old. How many people actually begin their life's work at 70? Most people are ending it at 70, right? Retiring, thinking how now to slow down in life. And Prabhupada began his life's mission 70 years old. There was one statement by one official in the Hungarian government. He was telling the devotees, he was an elderly man. He was actually kind of berating the devotees there. He was saying, you don't really know what your teacher did. You don't understand. He was really quite animated. He did all his work at 70. I'm 70. I know what it's like. You don't understand because you're all young. You don't know what it means to be old and try to do this work. Travel around the world 14 times in 12 years and beginning at the age of 70. We'll get into really Prabhupada's coming over. That's one of the upcoming lessons. So the austerity that Prabhupada went through is unbelievable, even for a young man. Next. Yeah, that's even more than over 100 temples. You know that story of who knows the story of the person on the park bench in New York City? Who knows that story? You know? Can tell it? What happened?
When Prabhupada was sitting on a bench and a guy came and sat next to him, and then he was asking Prabhupada that what are you doing here, and then Prabhupada said that I have I'm a Swami from India and I have 108 temples and many devotees are there. So then he said, but I don't see any, where is it? So then Prabhupada said, they are there, only time is separating us.
Yeah. He said, this man, he was from Iran. He was a train conductor. He sat down because he saw Prabhupada being a curious-looking personality. So he sat next to him and just started to talk. Who are you? Prabhupada mentioned a few things, and he said, I have 108 temples, but they're separated by time. Now, if you tell that to any person, they're going to think you're crazy. And this person thought Prabhupada was a nice person, but he's really speaking all kinds of crazy things. And it's interesting. I received a letter from one devotee, not devotee, but yeah, he was a devotee. He was in jail, and he sent me this letter. He said, when I was in the Seattle temple, one day this elderly man came in, and he was really excited. He went up to Prabhupada and started speaking really loud to everyone. We were all there in the temple, and he said, he did it. He said he was going to do it. I didn't believe him. He did it. And he was just really, he was emotional. Then later they talked to him, and he was the same train conductor. He's the same person. He actually got Prabhupada's message directly because he lived long enough to actually understand what Prabhupada was saying was actually true. Yeah. So that's nice. That's a nice story. Yes. Someone else? Yes? You can speak something?
When Prabhupada was, it's just a thought, in mood of participation is when Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta and he had the heart attacks, he said Krishna came to him
in a dream. Yeah, that's actually coming up in the next lesson. That's today also. That's in lesson number 4, yeah. And there's a beautiful song that's connected with that one. So we'll get to that. Another symptom of a founder Acharya is yeah. How many books does Prabhupada actually translate and write? 70? I think that's a small number. I think it's even more than that. Hundreds of books, actually. Of course, there's a whole set of Chaitanya Charitamritas, the Bhagavad Gitas, a whole set of Srimad Bhagavatams, Nectar Devotion. So many books, yes. Maybe you're right, about 70, but now we have hundreds that are written based on his teachings. Anybody have any examples of that one? How he inspired people to become Krishna conscious? Yeah, through book distribution. Just reading his books. But I mean direct contact. And George Harrison. Yeah, that's an example. Very good, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you probably didn't have to say anything. Just if you were just with him, you were Krishna conscious, and then you wanted to follow him anyway. There's that story that he was passing through Athens. I think it was Athens. No, maybe it was Fiji. And he stopped in the airport. He met one man. He talked to the man, and the man started a temple. Just met him in the airport. And the next day, the man was so inspired, he went out and started a temple in that area. I think it was Fiji. Yes, Richard.
On YouTube, and I was just thinking right now about, and I heard a devotee saying that that particular medium is a way to reach a lot, more people than maybe was ever possible. So
yeah, through the media, we can still. Prabhupada said we don't really have anything to do with technology, but we can use it to spread Krishna consciousness. Mm-hmm. We couldn't keep up with him. He would walk and the devotees would run next to him. He was 70 plus and the devotees were like 20s and they would be running and Prabhupada would be walking. There's even stories where they try to find his footprints and they couldn't find it. They say, he walks off the ground. Of course, Prabhupada never was into miracles to convince people, but there was always miracles happening around him. It's just amazing. Yes, Sri Guru. Ananta Shakti, yeah. He met two boys, one Indian boy and one Russian boy. The Indian boy, his father was the ambassador to Russia, and that was his friend. And he preached to both of them, and the Indian boy didn't really want to do anything. He just wanted to go back and be an Indian. So, because I meet so many Indian people because I'm an Indian, So, but he wasn't inspired so much by Prabhupada. But Ananta Shakti, he just listened for 3 days. Prabhupada had nothing to do. He was in Russia, and when Russia, there was nothing to do. They actually went on a tour because Prabhupada said to Shyam Sundar, let's do something. I don't want to sit in his room all day. So Shyam Sundar said they have this tour. They go around and they're taking this bus ride and they're going to see Lenin's tomb and the big, what do they call that? Kremlin. Prabhupada stopped through that. He said, this is boring. Let's get off it. So then he met these two people. Actually, Shyam Sundar met him, and they brought him to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was so happy. Here's two young boys. And he just preached to him for 3 days. The Russian boy was so inspired that he started to... what happened was that Shyam Sundar happened to get a Bhagavad Gita into Russia. This was an interesting story how that got in. And that boy took that Bhagavad Gita and copied it by hand. And then that's how book distribution started in Russia. He copied it, and then he would give it to someone else, and they also copied it. So that's how books were. It was very difficult at that time. And if you get caught, the KGB would put you away. And Antashakti also had a lot of problems too. Yes, with the KGB, yes?
Maharaj, I just wanted to share my personal experience. But I think it's within the context. On the day I was getting married, I invited all my office colleagues to come. And one of them was an atheist. And I tried, and Nityananda Prabhu said, he's very stubborn, don't try. So, but then he came for the wedding, and then he said, a few days later, when I went back to work, he said, I saw that an elderly gentleman was sitting, and then I didn't look at him because I was scared of looking at him. He was talking about Prabhupada. And he said, I thought he was real. And then finally I turned and I looked at him and I felt, but he really felt Prabhupada was real.
Mercy on the atheist. Yeah, many people have that experience that, we have to be careful. He's sitting up there. But for a devotee, they know that's true. They know it's manifest through his personal Shakti. But actually, people actually experience that. Because they're innocent. And why they're innocent? Because they're innocent, they can actually experience something real. Yes. Online question, okay.
Maharaj, at the time of Prabhupada's departure, were there any writings left, inconclusive or unpublished?
Any writings that were unpublished? Well, you mean to this day? Well, Prabhupada didn't finish the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore his disciples, headed by Hridayananda Maharaj and Gopi Paranandana, and Dravida Prabhu and others, they finished the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada had a whole list of books that he wanted to do the Padma Purana. He wanted to translate that and give it purports on Padma Purana. He also wanted to do the Kenakatha Upanishads. That's why we see these books came out. Kenakatha Upanishads was done by one of Prabhupada's disciples because he knew Prabhupada wanted it. So Prabhupada had a whole list of books that he wanted to work on. But the one that was incomplete was the Srimad Bhagavatam. That was the only one I can think of. Yes?
Narada Bhakti Sutra.
Yeah. The Prabhupada started the Narada Bhakti Sutra, and he got through 13 verses, and then he decided nectar devotion's more important. So he stopped, and he did the nectar of devotion, but he never got back to the Narada Bhakti Sutra, and Satsvarupa Maharaj finished it. Yeah, that's true. Thank you. That was one thing that wasn't finished. Narada Bhakti Sutras were started in 1967, which is Narada's glorification of Bhakti Yoga after he saw Srimati Radharani. When Radharani appeared into this world, Narada came to see that special birth. And when he saw the darshan of this little girl who was actually Srimati Radharani, he became inspired in devotional service and wrote the Narada Bhakti Sutras. And Prabhupada wanted to give the purports on those, but he only got 13 verses. So he considered the nectar devotion more fundamental to our practice of devotional service. So he switched. Okay, that's one of the ones. Another symptom of a founder Acharya? Can read someone?
Mandated to carry pure love of God to every town and village on earth.
Yeah, it was a mandate. When someone asked Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya spread Krishna consciousness all over India, and he was God, he could have spread it all over the world. Why didn't he do it? What was Prabhupada's answer? Huh? Yeah, he left it for me. Okay, let's see. Okay, we're on to lesson 4. So that's the end of lesson 3. Okay, any questions? Founder Acharya, his symptoms, his characteristics, his prediction in the scripture. This understanding of his prediction is so important because when we understand who Prabhupada is, we can go beyond this idea that he's just one of great saints among so many great saints. He actually was destined to do this work, and he was empowered by the Lord to do the work, both. So that makes him a little bit above the ordinary saints. Yes. Janakinath?
You mentioned that there is more than one founder Acharya if they fit those characteristics that you displayed.
Yeah, there was Ramanujacharya, right?
A founder Acharya, okay.
Yeah, Ramanuja is a founder Acharya, Madhva is a founder Acharya, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati founded the Gaudiya Math under the directions of Bhakti. Yeah, he founded the Gaudiya Math, which was the powerful preaching force that brought Lord Chaitanya's movement back. So he was a founder Acharya also. The word founder Acharya was first mentioned by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and then later again by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati in reference to, his writers or his disciples were writing, and they considered him the founder Acharya because he had all these characteristics.
Okay. Margie, on the first point you made about characteristics of founder Acharya, if we could there's 2 Sanskrit terminology used, deliver.
Characteristics?
Yeah. So I was just thinking, Maharaj, so you mentioned the subsequent benefactors are like, you could say, the disciples of Prabhupada who are empowered also to bring the fallen souls to Prabhupada, right?
Yeah. That's the job of the preachers, to bring everyone to Prabhupada.
I was just thinking, would Prabhupada also be upakaraka, meaning getting empowerment from his spiritual master?
Yeah, he could also be considered Ukapapara, but he also has another distinction. He's Udaraka. He's a deliverer of everyone. The thing is, there's only one founder Acharya in ISKCON. If this movement fails and goes down, then there'll be another founder Acharya maybe coming up and starting, but you can't have another founder Acharya of ISKCON, or within ISKCON. There's only one founder Acharya. We bring everything to Prabhupada. Yes.
Thank you so much for your seminar, Maharaj. I'm just trying to understand the understanding of empowerment and truthful representation. So, for example, like any of Prabhupada's followers who's a transparent medium to Prabhupada is representing his teachings purely and fully, but he may not have the empowerment to deliver everyone like Prabhupada did. So what was it about Prabhupada that Krishna... Because, there's that verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that only one who has the empowerment of Krishna can spread the bhakti cult all over the world. So, sorry for the long question, but I guess I'm just trying to understand how it is that one is selected to do such a task.
Krishna Shakti Vihana He Tad Bhavartanam. That verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. When one is empowered by the Lord, ultimately the Lord is the ultimate principle of all success. He's the Adi Guru, and He's the deliverer of everyone. But He empowers those who work on His behalf. And according to how much they accept His empowerment, they get different positions in relationship to Krishna. So there's only one deliverer of everyone, that's Krishna. And within our ISKCON movement, that's Srila Prabhupada. But everyone else is bringing everyone else to Prabhupada. What is that everyone? His teachings, His example, His mood, His mission. We can't create something new. We simply have to carry out what Prabhupada gave us, and then we become chaste to both Krishna and to Srila Prabhupada. We can present His teachings in different ways to attract different people, but ultimately His teachings are the foundation for everything. So it's Krishna ultimately that's doing everything. Yes, Asraya, you had a statement? You had your hand up?
Maharaj, there was one point that said he's the Acharya or the leader of all the Vaishnavas when physically present. You had mentioned, I think Vaishnav Sivananda Prabhu asked this question, do his god brothers also recognize him? And many of them did recognize him as...
Some did. Some recognized after. Mm-hmm. The person who really recognized him at first was Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, who even from the beginning understood Prabhupada. But some of his, even the most senior of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples, took issue with Prabhupada. Basically because the way he was presenting Krishna consciousness to the Westerners, who was it? The two sannyasis went to England. Ban Maharaj and who was the other one? What was his name? Can't think of it. Jayarada Madhava, Kunja Bihari. His name was Kunja Bihari. That's the only way. It's the only way. Remembrance by association. Those two, they were the first to really go to the West, and they went right to the top. They were meeting people in Parliament in London and preaching to very high, respectable, what we say, wealthy people. And they were getting good audiences. But these people were more like token followers. They weren't really taking up Krishna consciousness. They were just honoring that these two sadhus have come from India, and India used to be one of our colonies, So we were just giving them some respect. And they came back. They got a hero's welcome. You can see there's a picture. They're being honored with great garlands and everything. But nothing ever happened to that. So ultimately, it was deemed that they actually failed. They tried, but they went to, and Prabhupada wanted to do the same thing, but he decided to go to people who were, the most down and out materially. And that's where his success was. That's the amazing thing about Prabhupada's mission. One of the amazing things is that he went to people who were materially bankrupt, socially, rejected, morally decrepit. And Lord Chaitanya did the same thing with Jagai and Madai, Lord Nityananda. Prabhupada's following in the footsteps and showing, if somebody has something, they might want to add a little Krishna consciousness to their life. But if you have nothing, and you still take up Krishna consciousness without even getting the material necessities of life or material, goals in life, that's amazing. That is really amazing. And those followers in the early days, they became so dedicated to Prabhupada that anything Prabhupada wanted, they made it their life's mission to carry out. Yes, Jai Jagannath.
Maharaj, when we're reading Srila Prabhupada's books, sometimes we get a certain understanding of the books, and then when we present our understanding before our spiritual master, or masters, let's say, then they give us another understanding, which we will consider the right way of understanding Srila Prabhupada's books. So then our understanding of what Srila Prabhupada has given to us is generally through our spiritual masters. And if there shall be some contradiction between what we understand when we read the books and what our spiritual master is telling us, then as a disciple, we usually give predilection to what our spiritual master is guiding us. So then I'm trying to understand, how do we understand Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya without actually minimizing subtly the mercy that is descending to us.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand Prabhupada's teachings directly. We understand through our bona fide spiritual master.
Yeah. If you can understand directly, then it's good. But if you can't, get help.
Well, our teaching is we will not be able to understand directly which Srila Prabhupada is taught. Therefore, we require the association.
Prabhupada's books are clear, but you might need a further clarification. Well, as Prabhupada said, if you read my books, you can discuss it from different angles of vision. What angle of vision does your spiritual master want you to see that point from? On how it will help you in your spiritual life. Now, if you're doing a general discussion, you may say, well, this you can speak it from this side, we can speak it from this side. Just like ICC Kishore Kishori Ki Jai. Just like the Atmarama verse. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya gave 11 meanings to the Atmarama verse. Lord Chaitanya gave 64 meanings. So the same verse, and it's not like those 11 meanings were wrong, but that's all he could see. So I think the more one is spiritually connected, the more one can see more and more meanings from the same material. So yeah, it's not that you can't read Prabhupada's books and get an understanding. It's not like that. You can. But you may need clarification. If you present it to your spiritual master and he says, very good, this is correct, then yeah.
Yeah, my confusion is coming that we have many acharyas, like we're called as Rupanugas. And the things that Srila Rupa Goswami has written are not unclear. Yet we require, not the Rasa Shastras, I'm thinking like Upadeshamrita, etc., like simpler things. It is not unclear, but we require Srila Prabhupada's purports to get further understanding. So also when we're reading Prabhupada's books, it is not, even though it's clear as day, due to the covering of the modes of material nature, we don't directly understand them.
Sometimes we don't, sometimes we do. Well, it depends on you.
Yeah. Well, my doubt...
It's not like everybody's clouded. Some of us can read Prabhupada's books and get realizations about what Prabhupada's saying, not only understandings. And so, if you're reading it and you're thinking, what does this mean? Or how does it apply to me? Then you need to ask the question then.
Yeah, Maharaj, my doubt was concerning how do we accept the authority of our spiritual master? Is he just like a person who gives further clarification and like thanks? Or he's giving us like more or less like absolute guidance in terms of our progress towards the absolute
That's
truth?
where the Ritviks fall short, because the personal guidance actually opens up the relationship with the founder Acharya, and also the relationship with that person himself. They don't have that personal guidance. They just have the Prabhupada in his books, and therefore they can interpret it in different ways, according to whatever they want to present as their idea. It's like one of them said to me, where does it say in Prabhupada's book you have to take a living authority? Show me a verse. Tadvidi pratipatena paripasena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnana jnaninam tattva darshana. It's clear. It's right there. 434 in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. So, they'll come up with other verses. Therefore, you have to really have the Acharya empowers those who are surrendered to him to speak on his behalf and clarify his words for those who need clarification. But you can't say that everyone is clouded. It's not true. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You think of both. Both. That's it says that, a person who can only see, just like ultimately the Guru and Krishna is non-different. So we worship both. if you can only worship one, and therefore any other form of worship or any other designation to where the worship goes to is confusing to your worship, then you're seeing on the material platform. You can worship your spiritual master, you can worship Prabhupada, and you can worship Krishna all through the same process of worship. There's no contradiction. In fact, if you worship your spiritual master properly and he's worshiping Prabhupada properly, you're also worshiping Prabhupada. It's not different because the connection is there, direct. Well, that's up to the gurus to make sure that doesn't happen. That's why I'm bringing this seminar in. So we don't fall like that. It's not the fault of the general devotees, it's the spiritual masters who are not instructing their disciples on what they should be doing and how they should be seeing their relation with Prabhupada. There's where we say the problem starts to exist, is that unless they're very conscious to connect their disciples to Prabhupada and be connected themselves, then they can also be a block. And that's happened many times. I know one spiritual master who said, one devotee came back and said, your books are so relevant to the Western, we should just distribute your books. And the spiritual master said, yes, let's just distribute my books, because my books talk to the Westerners, where Prabhupada's books may be a little bit too hard to understand. And when that person said that, few people just immediately left his shelter because they understood he was trying to overshadow Prabhupada. And as soon as you started to do that, you lose your potency. You're no longer empowered anymore. Yes, Mataji. Alicia? I answered the question.
I know this is not a good question to ask in this setting. I'm curious, at what point is there hope for us having personal association with
Prabhupada? Think of the word you want to say. Yes, personal association. You can even have personal association with Krishna. That's what this movement is all about. Well, if Krishna arranges that, but so far he hasn't. So until he arranges that, don't worry about it. Just stick with what we have right now. I think we have to be satisfied with what Prabhupada gave us, because if we're not satisfied with what Prabhupada gave us, that means we don't understand what he gave us. That's the whole point. Prabhupada gave us so much, and we're only getting a little bit of it. It's not only his books, it's his mission. What does he want from us? How do we connect in our service to Prabhupada? Not simply only the philosophy. What can we do for Prabhupada that our spiritual master is asking us to do? That's really the key point. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Then Sri Guru, you can come next.
I had a concern similar to, confusion similar to Jai Jagannath Prabhu's, and I was just thinking of a comparison, and I would like if you could tell me if this is a fair comparison. Prahlad Maharaj is praying to, I think, Nrsingadev and saying, basically that because Narad is the one who delivered me, right, my allegiance is to him, even though he's just your representative and his empowerment is coming from your mercy. My loyalty and my service is actually to him.
Right.
So I was thinking of comparing that, even though the spiritual masters in ISKCON are representatives of Srila Prabhupada, and their mercy is coming through him, that the disciple would be thinking that my spiritual master is an absolute authority and my service is to him, period. Or is that...
Well, I think we discussed that. We mentioned that. One person was saying he was eating pizza during the fast day. He said, Prabhupada's not my guru, so why should I fast on this day? So yeah, that means we don't understand the relationship between the founder Acharya and our spiritual master. He's the foundation for everything. The subsequent, we say, the upakaras, the subsequent benefactors, they bring everyone to his shelter. By his teachings, by his mood, by his mission, everything. Your spiritual master becomes very dear to you, but also he's a via media. He's a transparent medium for his spiritual master. Prabhupada didn't do that with us with Bhakti Siddhanta because he said we couldn't understand Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. You have to get Bhakti Siddhanta from me. Bhakti Siddhanta is not like our guru to Prabhupada and Prabhupada to Bhakti Siddhanta. It's not the same. Because Prabhupada restarted the mission. If you try to follow what Bhakti Siddhanta did in his practical way of teaching Krishna consciousness, you couldn't do it. So Prabhupada, but we have to follow everything Prabhupada said, and our spiritual masters are the ways to understand how to apply those teachings in a practical and what we say individual way, like that. And Prabhupada cautioned us about jumping to us, his disciples, about jumping up to Bhakti Siddhanta and trying to follow Bhakti Siddhanta. He says, you get Bhakti Siddhanta from me. Because Prabhupada was unique in reestablishing the whole movement of Krishna consciousness. It's the applications of some of the principles are completely different than what Bhakti Siddhanta said. Bhakti Siddhanta said you have to chant 64 rounds a day. And Prabhupada also told us that at the beginning of the movement. He said chant 64 rounds. The devotees protested. And then he said 32, and they continued to protest. And he said 16 and no less. And some devotees in ISKCON now say we have to chant 64 rounds because that's the words of Bhakti Siddhanta. But that's not actually. If you're not chanting 64 rounds, it doesn't mean you're not following Prabhupada, because he gave the standard. He adjusted the standard according to time, place, and person. So adjustments can be made by the founder Acharya according to the time, place, and person. And that's why he didn't want us to hear directly from Bhakti Siddhanta, because we might misunderstand what he's saying, at least in a practical way. Does that answer your question? Doesn't look like it. I think you're meditating on something. Just think about what was said. Okay? You have to see your spiritual master in relationship to Prabhupada and not separate from Prabhupada. If you see it separate, you're thinking that there's two different types of instructions that are being given. Just like, well, there's Prabhupada's disciples, and then there's disciples of Prabhupada's disciples. No, everyone is a disciple of Prabhupada. Either Diksha or Shiksha. Shiksha and Diksha are the same. So everyone who comes into this movement has, listen to this word, direct relationship with Prabhupada. Direct, not indirect. Oh, I'm not a Prabhupada disciple. No. If you come into ISKCON, you follow Prabhupada, you're directly connected to Prabhupada. Direct.
So in a similar way, we have a direct connection with Krishna, but it's through the mercy of our particular spiritual master and then the founder Acharya of our particular sampradaya that we access that relationship.
That's how Krishna set it up.
Okay.
Krishna set it up there. He said it, you want my mercy, you have to go through, this is the system of getting my mercy. He could have said, just approach me directly, but he didn't. He said, my mercy comes through my representatives. So, yeah. Sri Guru?
I actually wanted to say something when the question was in terms of like next Acharya. It just came to my mind like that we don't really need it now. Srila Prabhupada is an Acharya, and also I was thinking how potent and empowered like our gurus, and they cannot be just, you can see that they're empowered by Srila Prabhupada, by Krishna Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada. Like when we used to travel with Indradyumna Swami, it was so hard for us. Like I was just watching Gurudev, and like it was, he's like much older than we, but our bodies could not move as he's doing. You can really see that it's not just like, it's not human what he does. And Jayapadika Swami, Radhanath Swami, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, if you just look at, like, just really look attentively what they were able to do, you can see that this amazing empowerment from Srila Prabhupada if they connected.
This year at the GBC meetings, the GBC came out with a I don't know if it was called a regulation, rule or something, but a consideration of putting Srila Prabhupada back in the center by using his name in different ways that has never been used before. Like every temple should have a sign A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, founder Acharya of the Hare Krishna movement, like that. And all his books, founder Acharya, not just Acharya. Because there's so many Acharyas. Another question? Yes, Asraya. And then Janakinath. I think we're going a little over time, right? So I should end here. 1 o'clock. Okay, we can, if you have something to do, please. If you'd like to leave, that's up to you. But you tell me if we go too far beyond what's required. I think we can stop at 12:30 when the curtains open. We're getting Asraya's and then the online question.
Thank you, Maharaj. One thing that you said helped to make this clear for me during the presentation, that in ISKCON there is only one founder Acharya.
Right.
And the idea that we have an understanding of our spiritual master as a representative of Krishna doesn't diminish that position whatsoever.
No. Why should it? It should enhance it, actually.
Right. So, and here the last point is he awards power of attorney to his followers through adherence to his teachings.
Yeah.
The idea, my understanding, you can clarify for us.
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah. Is it gets the empowerment to be a guru within ISKCON simply by his chastity to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Which is, that's the idea, I
yeah,
feel.
And Prabhupada mentioned that about himself as far as his own.
I know there's an online question, but it's in relation to Ashraya's statement, so is it all right if I...
Yeah.
In general, when we have conversations such as these or this, by default, when we use, when we refer to followers of Prabhupada, it seems to indicate Diksha Gurus. Although the statement itself is not Diksha Guru particularly, because there are many, many devotees who have Diksha, but they don't have their main training or Siksha comes either from Prabhupada's books or from other devotees who are technically Siksha Gurus. Mm-hmm. But they're all followers of Prabhupada. Mm-hmm. So there seems to be like a, I guess, innuendo or a sort of insinuation that it means Diksha Gurus.
Well,
may not be necessarily true.
That's insinuation, and innuendo has become a feature of fact over the years. But that's what it is. It's what you describe it as, but it's been put like that. That really, if you're not a Prabhupada disciple, you're really not connected to Prabhupada in a real way. You're not as much connected. But a disciple of Prabhupada's disciples can be more connected to Prabhupada than one of Prabhupada's disciples if they are following Prabhupada. It's not a matter of initiation, diksha, or name, or anything. It's a matter of allegiance to the teachings and surrender to the instructions. The instructions connect us to the spiritual master and to Krishna. So yeah, that insinuation and innuendo has become a feature of what we say fact, but now it's being dispelled, hopefully. It's not true. There are people who never met Prabhupada who are really fixed in Krishna consciousness, who joined the movement after Prabhupada left, and who became really, really amazing devotees just by reading his books. Just like, for example, I preach in prisons. And we have some inmates that are reading Prabhupada's books and writing their own realizations on Krishna consciousness just by reading his books, and their realizations are just completely in line with Prabhupada's books. I think I gave, where's Mother Kirtina? Is she here, or she disappeared? Yeah, I gave her some writings just yesterday for someone to type. It was from one inmate. You read those writings, it's like Shastra. And this is a man who has been in jail. He never met any. He think he met about one or two devotees in his life. So that's reading Prabhupada's books and getting realizations that are completely clear. You know. So it's not a matter of position or time. It's simply a matter of what we say, faith and surrender, really. Those two things. And that's available for anybody in any particular service or any particular background. That's what makes this movement so beautiful. And we got this top-heavy movement where we think, oh, yeah, there's the great devotees, and everybody else is just, somebody else. But there's so many great devotees who are you don't even know about them. They're doing simple service, but they have complete faith. They've given their life to Krishna consciousness. They're chanting the holy names, and they're fired up in their service. They may be doing simple service. They may be a pujari, they may be a cook, they may be a book distributor. It doesn't really matter who you are or what your service is. It's really your connection. That's the whole thing. Yes, the online question, and then Jai Jagannath next.
Nowadays, there are a lot of swamis and gurus that are Prabhupada's followers. Is there any of these that has Prabhupada's stature and characteristics?
Is there any of these? Any of the followers that are Prabhupada's disciples have his same character and stature? Stature, that means he's up to the same level. There are many great devotees in this movement. No question about that. There's that one little film clip. It's about a 45-second film clip where you see one senior devotee is rowing a boat on the Ganga. It was Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And in the background it was... Who's that? Oh, can't think. He's connected with Mayapur. He lives in Australia now. No. Huh? He used to be a sannyasi now, but he was in Grihastha now. Bhavananda. Bhavananda's talking, and Prabhupada's there, and it's in the background talking. Bhavananda said, how is it, Prabhupada, that we, soon as we heard the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we just came running to you? Prabhupada said, yes, that is because you have been connected in previous lives. So when you heard the mantra again, you just ran back to Prabhupada. You ran. So, this movement is Lord Chaitanya's movement. And Prabhupada said, many of my disciples are simply associates of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya has picked up and, again, put him back into this movement to spread his movement around the world. So who can say whose? There are many great souls. But to answer the question, I don't think any one of them will admit that I'm as good as Prabhupada, or I could ever be as good as Prabhupada. I don't think any of them would admit. And for me to say that that's true, all I can say is there are many, many great souls in this movement. Very special persons who have been empowered by Lord Chaitanya to come into this movement and spread this movement. But I think there's only one Prabhupada. That's the way I see it. Not to minimize anybody else, but at the same time not to pretentiously say that, someone is on the same level as Prabhupada. What is the 8th verse that we sing? Guru Vasta compare? Seventh verse. Sakshat Hari. Sakshat Hari. That means directly empowered. Sakshat Hari. Okay, Jai Jagannath Prabhu.
Asked Prahlad Maharaj, how did he become Krishna conscious? To that, Prahlad Maharaj said that it is not possible to become Krishna conscious by one's own endeavors, by the endeavors of others, or by joint conferences.
What's the verse?
Matirna Krishna Parata Swatova. Mito Griha Yeta, what is
Griha
that? Griha Vritanam.
Adanta Gopir Visitam Tirisham Punas Chavadacharananam.
So there, Prahlad Maharaj says, by one's own endeavors, the endeavors of others, or joint conferences, Prabhupada's way of putting it, one cannot become Krishna conscious. Right. And then he brings them to the conclusion that one can only do so by getting the association and bathing himself in the dust of the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava who's completely free from material attachment and so on.
Right.
You just cited a story about the prisoner who just received one of Prabhupada's books, and he's writing things that's like Shastra realization.
Amazing. I'm going to publish those writings. You'll see them.
So my question actually is that with that type of the prisoner example, he didn't exactly get the association of a devotee, but he's speaking very nice things and so on. So,
but what is he getting?
Of course, he's getting Srila Prabhupada's books in association.
Right, that's the whole point.
We are also getting Srila Prabhupada's books in association. So that might bring one to the conclusion that it need not actually be necessary to actually accept a spiritual master who's a living guide for one's life. Srila Prabhupada's books would be sufficient. I mean, of course, these types of conclusions are there. People are saying these things. I've heard them from various devotees, and from that type of story, an example, like I have a doubt about the guy of the Prabhu, who is saying that it's not my spiritual master's, but that's your spiritual master, that's not my spiritual master. Right. But that example, because Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not our spiritual master, but we fast for his day.
Right.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is not our spiritual. So it just seemed like that devotee was just poorly trained, and not that that's necessarily indicative of a prominent understanding of newer devotees. It just sounds like someone who's just not trained properly.
Or maybe he just wanted to eat pizza that day. So he was a pizza bhakta instead of a Prabhupada bhakta.
So how do we, I've heard this question from many devotees, how do we deal with, not many, but in the last year I've heard from a few devotees, well, since this prisoner, he's gotten such amazing association from Prabhupada's books. We need for me to accept, the guidance of a living spiritual master, and let me just take guidance from Srila Prabhupada's books.
If you can do it, go ahead. Good luck. But let's see what happens to you. Can you actually make it? But we also say, Adastara Saru Sangha Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivritti. So Anartha Nivritti follows Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means shelter of a guru. So we can, have a lot of nice understanding and realizations, but getting rid of anarthas takes the guidance of a living spiritual master. Living spiritual master will say, hey, you're in Maya. You got to do something. This is not your service, this is your service. You should consider this, you consider that. You're too proud. You're too lazy. You're not going to read that in the books. The books will tell you that, but you're not going to say it's about me. Unless you... So that's why a living spiritual master is like Krishna's personal presence, That's important, yes. Yeah, that's also, that's a good point. Yeah, this person is connected with one of our prison preachers, and they're direct. Now, you made a good point that this person who was reading Prabhupada's books in jail and getting a lot of realization, does he have some connection through one of Prabhupada's disciples? Yeah, that's true. He does. It's not me, but it's another person who's been, what we say, feeding him Krishna consciousness for the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, so that's important. He's getting inspired by that person who was an initiated devotee and is a disciple of Srila Maharaj. So yeah, that's a good point. So there's that feature there too. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, okay.
My question is, we have founder acharyas. You can be founder acharya of anything. But my question is that Prabhupada was founder acharya, but he was also Jagat Guru. So is that the distinction, like distinguishing him as a Nityasiddha, where he even though he was here, he never left the spiritual world? And what I'm asking is that the distinction between Prabhupada and the rest of the living entities on the planet, is that he is the Jagat Guru for the whole universe?
When he's physically present, yeah. He's the leader of all the Vaishnava when he's physically present, yeah. Correct. Richard? You want to know the meaning of that term?
Well, in relationship to Bhajana Kriya and Anartha Nivritti and
reading
Prabhupada's books.
Kishori ki jai. What does it mean? It means that a moment's association with a pure devotee means, when Prabhupada was asked that question, we have so much association, Prabhupada, but we're not pure. What does that mean? Prabhupada said, if the wood is wet, it won't ignite. Okay, got the answer? That means the wood has to dry out before it ignites. So in that when it ignites, it's that second, that lavamatta. But when will it ignite? When the wood is dry. So how does the wood dry out? Just keep hearing. When you hear sufficiently, you'll become purified. And when you become purified, then lavamatta sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy. Follow? But we're in the association, but we're not really getting the full association. We're getting the opportunity to come to that association through the process of hearing. And when we actually hear, then we get a realization. Then that's association. And that's Lavamata. Follow? Okay. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki. Shri Shri Kishore Kishori ki. So 3:30 again, chapter number 4, where we say Prabhupada's mission from seeds to buds. From seeds to buds. That's the next session. Thank you very much for your participation and attendance.